Question for Dana, and then a question for George. To your right, Dana. Any thoughts on putting together a primetime three-part series for this fight here to really show people that, you know, a side that maybe they haven't seen about Jake Shields, and to continue to show George St. Pierre to drive more traffic to the pay-per-view?
Let me work on that, Joe. You know, we hadn't talked about it, but that's not a bad idea. If I do it, it's because of you. Good idea.
I appreciate that. George, how important, and we talk about this all the time, finishing a fight or finishing. I mean, there's still the people out there that are criticizing you for not finishing a fight. We saw you nearly snap Dan Hardy's limbs off, and then we nearly, you busted up Josh Koscheck's face. But going into this fight, how important is it to finish Jake Shields, to silence the remaining critics?
It's not to finish Jake Shields. People have to understand, the guy that stepped into the octagon when he's going to fight for a world title, you have to understand, you have to put yourself into the guy's shoes. He's going there. When I'm going to fight, sometimes I'm going to fight I put myself in a mindset that I might not come back. You know, that's how it is. You know, it's not reality, but that's how these guys get there when they fight me, and I know it. You know, Dan Hardy, I tried to snap the arms. You know, I made a mistake. You know, a technical mistake. If I would have done it right, it would have snapped, but he didn't. And Koscheck, you know, his eye, I broke an orbital bone, you know, in two different places. You know, this fight could have been stopped. Koscheck never stopped. You know, he's a true warrior. You know, warrior spirit. A lot of guys would have stopped, you know, but he didn't. You know, because like I said, he went there in the mindset that he was ready to maybe not come back. You know, that's how much they want the title. So every time I step into the octagon, I'm ready for that challenge. And of course, it would be good for me if I can finish it like a clean knockout or a submission. And that's what I'm planning to do, but sometimes it doesn't always happen like the way I want.
Hi there, Melissa Brello with CP24. Perhaps Tom and Dana, you can speak to the weekend, the big fan event leading up to the actual tournament. So if you can talk to us about what fans here can expect that weekend.
Sure. Melissa, we've got lots planned for the week leading up to the April 30th event. Of course, we've got a fan expo over at the Direct Energy Center, which is about 300,000 square feet over in the C&E stands. We'll have probably 40, 50, 60,000 fans that'll descend upon that, and there'll be grappling tournaments, demonstrations, Q&A with fighters and with Dana, autograph sessions. It's really an opportunity for us to showcase our sport to as many MMA fans as there are, and we know there's hundreds of thousands in this region. But leading up towards that, there's going to be all sorts of other events in the city, throughout the city. We want to make this, in many ways, this is our Super Bowl, with all due respect to our Grey Cup as well. And that's what's really going to happen this whole week. And we're going to make this a celebration of the UFC and a celebration of mixed martial arts, and it's going to be terrific.
And I don't think the fans are going to be too surprised by it, but I think the city of Toronto will. How many people, and it's not just going to be people from Canada that are up here. People are going to come from all over the country and all the other parts of the world. And it's going to be an incredible weekend here that weekend. There's going to be so many people here, great energy, and it's going to be very cool. I'm really pumped for it.
James Bryden, Sportsnet.ca. My question is for Tom Wright. When the event was first announced, obviously you wanted to make it big. Did you have it in the back of your mind that if we could have two Canadians fighting for titles, that would just be great?
Well, I never really thought that that necessarily would happen. I lobbied Dana and Lorenzo and Joe Silva to have two championships, because I think that this is the kind of venue, this is the kind of city, and this is the kind of country that can host that. The last time we had two championships fights were on April the 10th last year in Dubai, and of course we had two for UFC 100 in Las Vegas. So I always hoped that there was going to be two championships. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have Mark be sitting beside me, and also have a chance to fight for the first time for his championship belt against a great fighter, Jose Aldo. I think it's going to be great for Canadian fight fans, but also just great for UFC fans. They're going to be amazing fights, and the rest of the card is going to be terrific as well, and we'll be announcing that later.
And just for Mark. Obviously, before your last fight, you knew that if you were to win, you were going to get this shot, and you looked so good. Did that knowledge make you come out with such oomph?
Well, I went into the last training camp, like 8 weeks out. I went in. I was like, I want to make a statement. I want to prove why I'm the #1 contender, because I knew I was offered the fight January 1st, and I was close to a title shot. But I wanted to go out there and reintroduce myself to the UFC fans, prove why I'm the #1 contender, and do it in impressive fashion. And that's really what I did.
Dana, Hugh Burrell, City News. Dana, when you were making up this fight card, how important was it to have George on it? And in your opinion, what makes him such a fan favorite?
Well, I don't know if you remember leading up to this fight, I was saying we don't need to go into Toronto with George St. Pierre headlining. I mean, obviously, if you have George St. Pierre headlining, it doesn't suck, but you know, it worked out that way, and here he is. Listen, if you look at the UFC, and one of the great things about the UFC is how many stars we do have, how many guys headline pay-per-views. I mean, we went up into Montreal with 2 Brazilians headlining the card. You know, we've been in LA with Brazilians headlining the card. Wherever we go, we've gone to England with BJ Penn headlining a card before, and you know, people love everybody in the UFC, and a lot of times you get where these people from different countries want to see the guys that they haven't seen fight yet. But George St. Pierre, if you look at our top 3 superstars, I would call George St. Pierre #1. I think he's, I literally think, and you know, all that stuff that started with Gretzky and him being the largest, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to say it again up here to you guys, and eventually it'll sink in. This guy is a monster, superstar, not just here, all over the world. So if I was headlining with George St. Pierre in Toronto, Las Vegas, Egypt, Poland, it doesn't matter. This guy is a huge superstar all over the world.
You folks on CBC News, Dana, just a couple questions. You keep mentioning what a mecca Canada is for UFC. What is it about Canadians that produces that kind of talent and is attracted to the sport? Are we just bloodthirsty?
No, it's, you know, I think that anybody who is a fan of mixed martial arts, they're not bloodthirsty. They're a fan of this, you know, this art that these guys are so incredibly talented. And really, when you look at all other sports, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, they're all huge fans of the UFC, all these other athletes. I mean, I think that fighting is a sport that all other sports aspire to be. And it's always well known that, you know, as human beings, the reason that the UFC works, not just up here in the Mecca in Canada, but all over the world as we continue to roll this thing out, is because we're human beings, and fighting's in our DNA. We get it and we like it. Canada just gets it and likes it a lot more than everybody else.
There is so much skill, but there is a lot of violence controlled. I know you said. How do you keep your competitors safe? There's so much talk even today about hockey and concussions. This is
football.
Sure, this is a much more dangerous sport, some would say. So what do you do to keep your players safe?
The some that would say that are very uneducated about the sport. The reality is, in the almost 20-year history of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, there's never been a death or serious injury. Now, every time, we're regulated by the government, okay? What happens is, every time one of these events are gonna happen, these guys go in and they get medically tested for, you know, they get CAT scans, EKGs, get full checkups so that we know that 2 healthy athletes are going in there to compete. Then you have the refs that are there to stop the fight when a fight needs to be stopped, and then they get medically tested after. This sport's very safe. And the other thing is, when you look at boxing, the 3 knockdown rule, a guy can be almost unconscious, and he has to the count of 10 to get back up and get knocked almost unconscious again, and you can do that 3 times. In this sport, when a guy gets hit like that, the other fighter has the ability to jump on top of them. So the fight is usually finished a lot sooner, and these guys don't take the same kind of damage that professional boxers or football players take.